Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be showing you how you can make your own leg warmers and how you can also tailor them for both children and adults. So first let me start by showing you, I have a couple pairs here of children's leg warmers. These are more for ages like 5 to 10-ish. The great thing about leg warmers is they'll fit a wide variety of sizes. Here's the other pair, and a striped pair, and then the pair I'm currently working on right now that are just solid black, and also the pair, I'll show you a picture right here because I forgot to bring them in here, of the pair I made out of the blend of the burgundy and gray yarn that I have, and those are so comfortable and warm, and I just love them. I tend to wear leg warmers a lot in the wintertime under my skirts and over my leg warmers to stay warm, and they work great, but it's time for new ones because all the ones I've been wearing are the old ballet leg warmers I've been wearing for many years, and they have holes in them, they don't stay up anymore, and they were just cheap ones that I bought like 20 years ago or so. So I'm getting into making, I used to make them and sell them a lot, but I never really made any for myself. So that's what I've been doing lately. And I thought some other people might like this, even though we're getting into the warmer months now. Some people might like this and be able to make themselves a couple pairs between now and next winter when the weather gets cold again. Now for some different options here. Right now on this leg warmer, I have the body done, and I have the top and the bottom to start. I will be using this yarn right here to start another pair so you can see how I get them started, and I'll be using this will be for the adult size. I'll be using the J size hook for this, and again, for those who don't know, Mr. Rain makes me these beautiful hardwood hooks, and I just love them. They're so smooth, they feel wonderful in the hand, and I don't have to worry about all that aluminum, exposure. So what I do to get started, and this will also work for this size as well. However, when you start this size, you want to start it with an I hook, and so that'd be the next size down from the J, and you're going to do 30 loosely crocheted chains around. So I tend to go a little slower when I'm doing than normal when I'm doing these chains to start out with, because I tend to crochet really tight, especially when I go very fast. And so I want to make sure that this foundation chain is very loose. Now you can also do a foundation single crochet. I don't prefer doing that. Those are good for some cases, but because of how this is the bottom of the leg warmer, just a regular chain will work to get it started. So after you get 30 chains around, what you're going to do is you're going to then hook them together, do a slip stitch in the first chain to make a ring. The other option is you could also crochet with the next size up your chain, and then after you finish your chain, switch to the smaller hook instead of trying to worry about making it loose enough. You just really want that foundation chain to be loose. So here I am doing the slip stitch into the starting chain. Now, if you're new to crocheting and you want to learn the basics, I'll go ahead and link right up here to my playlist, my Crochet 101. The first several videos, they're old videos, but they should be good enough to get you started on the chain stitch and just the basics to know for crocheting. And then there's also more videos in there on how to make various other little things. Okay, so once I have here, I have a couple of different options of what I'm to do next. What I'm going to do for these leg warmers, and I'm just doing plain old double crochets. So I want to start off, after I got that slip stitch, I want to start off with a chain 3 because that's going to count as my first double crochet. And then you're going to simply double crochet in every chain around the ring. Okay? And that always takes a little bit longer because you want to be careful not to twist your chain. You want to make sure, I like to make sure I'm going in just that top loop of the chain and leaving the bottom 2 loops open. And I'll explain why later. Now, I'll go ahead and continue this on, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the style that I have going on here is I started this one off. Don't count this part, this pink part down here. This right here is where the foundation chain is. And I actually started with a single crochet and then double crochet and then repeated it here, single, double. And how I got this ridge look, I'll get to that in a minute too. Let me go ahead and finish this round and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so once you get to the end and you've got your 30 stitches, you want to count and make sure you have 30 double crochets around there because it's easy to lose count if you don't pay attention. You're going to slip stitch into the top of that first chain that counted as your first double crochet, and there's your first round. And then from there, you just repeat this again, crocheting under the top 2 loops of each double crochet around until you've got another round of 30 double crochets. Okay, and then you're going to continue that for a total of 20 rows. Again, this is for the adult size leg warmer. And then when you get to after the 20th row, for the next 10 rows, you're doing a total of 30 rows of double crochets. The last 10 rows, switch to the next size up hook, which in this case is the K hook, and then do those last 10 rows in that particular, with that bigger size. So that will make it taper up just a little bit. So if you can, I don't know if you can tell here on the black leg warmer, it just tapers up a little bit. The stitch gets looser. Now, another way you can do this to make it wider at the top is simply to do an increase by adding a couple more double crochets into one of the ones below when you get to round 21. But the reason I like doing it this way is not only does it save time, it actually makes a looser stitch up here and makes it more stretchy. And I just like it better that way, and it does whip up a lot quicker. Now, when I'm doing the children's sizes, the big difference is I do like doing the double crochet and the single crochet, the double crochet, and alternating rows, which is going to make it shorter. I still do a total of 30 rounds when I'm doing this, and then I go from an I hook to a J hook on this one. Now, if you want to make an even smaller size than this, I suggest starting with the J hook, and don't switch to a bigger hook. You know, a size, this will be a size that will fit ages like 2 to 4, and simply drop the amount of stitches. So you're only going to do 25 stitches around, and then make that depending on how long you really want them. Typically, little girls are going to wear them right at their knees or just below their knees anyway, or just above the knee. And so you don't really need it, especially for little girls, to be too much wider at the top. Now, what you're going to want to do, so I'm going to grab this leg warmer here, and once I finish my last round, 30 rounds with the K hook, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet in each double crochet around for 5 rounds. And how tight you want to make that double or that single crochet is up to you, but I suggest pulling it rather tight because this is what's going to help hold it where you want it. Now, if you decide to make these longer so they go up all the way up to your thigh, you may want to make this looser at the top. Just keep in mind it's going to be harder to keep it up. You may even want to consider weaving a little bit of a matching elastic into the top of the leg warmer to make sure it stays up. I prefer to wear mine right at my knee or you know, and scrunched up, because it's mostly my lower part of my leg that gets cold rather than the upper part. So anyway, you're just going to continue that. Again, I would say at least 5 rounds, and then that's where you're going to get a look like this at the top. You can see how that's done. That's what I did here. And then you turn it around, and at the bottom you'll do the same thing, except for you'll use the smaller size hook that you started off with. So after I finish this border at the top, I will do the same thing with the J hook at the bottom. So K hook at the top, J hook at the bottom, 5 rounds of a single crochet like you see here. Okay, and now what I did was I grabbed some red yarn and started this because I thought it would be easier for me to demonstrate. I know, because black is really hard to see. You need a lot of light, and I didn't know how well it show up in the camera, but you can see here, I've got that ridge, just like is in the pink and white leg warmers. I did it on both, even this one that's solid, you still see these little ridges. So how you get that, if you're new to this technique, it's really simple. Now, when you first start learning to crochet, typically you're crocheting under both loops at the same time. Okay, so let me hold that up closer. Typically you go under both of those top loops, but for this, when I do this row of single crochets, I crochet only into the back loop. And if you're reading a pattern, typically it's going to say BLO, which means back loop only. And if it says FLO, that means front loop only. And so you can see what's happening here is it's making that nice little ridge. There's a lot of reasons why you need to learn how to work through loops like this. And especially if you start doing like baby shoes or certain other things where you need a more flat bottom or a basket, and then it's going to come up, then that also works for something like that. Because you see what happens when I fold that? It makes a nice differentiation between, let's say this is a shoe bottom and this is going to be the shoe upper. This is going to make the difference between that bottom and that top, instead of having it be just rounded. But for something like a leg warmer or a sweater or a hat, this just adds a little more interest, a little more texture to whatever it is you're doing. So anyway, you do those single crochets across through all your stitches all the way around. And of course, I'm not working in around here, I'm just working side to side, because I just took this little piece to show you. And so when I go to do the next round of just double crochets, I chain 3, skip this first single crochet, and then I double crochet into both loops of the previous single crochet. Now, if you like the idea of a ridge on every one, but you want the ridge in the front, this is where the crochet in the front loop only would come into play. So let's say I do this double crochet only in the front loops. So that's going to give me a ridge on each row and make maybe an even more interesting look, because then what you'll have is you'll have 2 ridges. You can see right here, 2 ridges that are back to back, and then a more smooth area, and then you'll have the 2 back-to-back ridges that are just right between the single crochet. Okay, so it's all a matter of choice, just one way that you can make it more interesting and keep it fairly simple. Now, people ask me about there's other pattern stitches and stuff you can use, but if you're just trying to whip up a quick pair of leg warmers, I recommend going just with the double crochet or even the single crochet, double crochet like I did here. These ones will take a little bit longer, you know, because crocheting through the back loop only does take just a little bit longer than doing under both, but still it's relatively quick. And then you can spice it up by either doing stripes, adding flowers like I did here with some little leaves, or even making a little tie and adding bows. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to show you some images of various different leg warmers I made over the years and how they looked, different ideas of colors, stripes, ways you can mix it up, use variegated yarn to put those little bows on there like I was talking about, or the flowers, or whatever it is that you want to do to just make it uniquely yours. Now for me, because I'm using these mostly just for staying warm, and I tend to wear black a lot, especially for leggings. I like to wear black the most. Black leg warmers are just fine with me. So that's how I do it. That's how I make my own homemade leg warmers. And so if you're looking for some good gift ideas for granddaughters and daughters, or your little girls that are in ballet, because that's what I made these for. I have these up on my store actually. Because like I said, I used to sell them to my students quite a bit, along with the little skirts that I like to make. And that's a fun project to do, and you know, handmade just makes it all the more special. And honestly, they're thicker and nicer than the ones that you typically, especially the cheaper ones, that you can get from a dancewear store. I know, because I've being a dance teacher for 20 something odd years, was it 28 years? I dealt with a lot of different dancewear companies, and these ones are just definitely warmer, and they're just better all the way around. And I do prefer on this using acrylic yarn, but you can use like a nice wool blend like I did with the burgundy and gray ones. That's a wool blend. The acrylic does tend to hold up better though to washings and wearings than the other kinds, than the blends. Like maybe strictly wool yarn would probably work really well. Okay, well I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.